Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State was in an ebullient mood yesterday. The Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt had just dismissed an application by the Federal Inland Revenue Service seeking to stop the Rivers State government from collecting value-added tax in the state. The presiding judge, Justice Stephen Palm, held that the Rivers State government law on VAT remained valid until it has been set aside by a court of competent jurisdiction. After the ruling, Wike immediately swung into action by directing the Rivers State Revenue Service to fully implement and enforce the law with immediate effect. He, however, expressed concern that some state governors, led by Bello Masari of Katsina State, were vainly conspiring to truncate this progressive reality in favor of the inequitable status quo, so that the federal government can continue to rob Peter to pay Paul, he said. Wike's directive came just as a similar law passed the second reading at the Lagos State House of Assembly. Now joining us from London to discuss the implications of the course of action by Lagos and Rivers States and the pushback from the FIRS and some states expected to suffer immediate term revenue losses is Tilewa Adebajo. Adebajo is an economist, a seasoned investment banker, a financial analyst, and the chief executive of CFG Advisory. Good morning, Tilewa, and thank you for joining us. Hello, Chile. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How is London?
Warm. Today.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. Very quickly, what do you make of this conversation around value-added tax and the Rivers State government insisting on its equitable rights, and other states like Lagos trying to follow suit, and some governors, as alleged by Governor Wike in the northern part of the country, led, as he says, by Governor Masari of Katsina State, trying to block this?
Well, may we live in interesting times. That's what the adage said. What is important here is there are many big elements. And the issue at hand is the fact that we have to understand that we have resources here at the center of all this. And if you take a look at the tax computations, you're looking at close to 2 trillion naira worth of VAT taxes on the table, at least as of this year. Last year, the federal government, through the Finance Act of 2020, increased the VAT collection from 5% to 7.5%. And of this amount, you'll find out that probably close to about 6 states contribute to about 90% of this VAT collection. And the state that is leading this collection is Lagos State. So if you have 2 trillion on the table and the federal government of Nigeria is struggling with its fiscal issues and spending 97% of its revenue to service debt, you understand that the whole situation with fiscal federalism, the poor state of the fiscal structure of both the federal and the state government is leading to the fact that a lot of things need to happen. So the question is, if 6 states contribute 90% of VAT, what is happening now is that the federal government collects all this VAT, takes 15% of it, gives 50% to the state governments, and 35% to the local governments. So, and a lot of the state governments are now saying that, no, this is our preserve, and we want to keep and collect what we have. So this is where you have the challenges.
Well, the court has upheld the River State, what's it called? The River State VAT Act, I'll just call it that. Does the issue of a refund arise? And if it does, what form will it take from FIRS to the state government?
Well, again, that is really where you find the heart of the matter. So the elephants, there are many elephants in the room, very large elephants in the room, as a matter of fact. The issue of refund is number one, and you can see that there's already a face-off between the Attorney General of Lagos State and the FIRS, and telling Lagos State to hold. But basically what we're now saying is that not only are you talking about refund, but then all the businesses that pay VAT are now confused. Who do we pay the VAT to? Do we pay it to the state governments, or do we pay it to the FIRS, or do we wait and keep all this money until there's a Supreme Court ruling? And I think that without a doubt, I think you're going to find out that will always be a situation whereby the Supreme Court ruling is going to come through, and a lot of all these things will now be resolved at that point in time. But it is a very significant decision, but it has caused a lot of confusion. And I think this is very significant earthquake with about maybe, and the ripple effects are going to be quite significant. Nobody knows. These are issues that really needs to be resolved. Refunds, who do the businesses pay their VATs to right now? These are issues that we still have to resolve at the moment. And of course, Lagos State is taking the cue. Lagos State is the largest beneficiary of this. Currently, Lagos State has an IGR of about 600 billion. If Lagos State is able to retain its VAT, Lagos State is responsible for the collection of close to 55% of the local VAT. So if Lagos State gets its VAT for itself with this ruling, it will increase its IGR by 50%. And of course, on a yearly basis, Lagos revenue will cross the 1 trillion naira threshold. So we'll move from about 600 billion to over 1 trillion naira. So there's a lot at stake, and everybody is looking at this opportunity to take advantage. And there's a gap between when this judgment is said and when it's eventually decided by the Supreme Court. And as you know, the way the courts are in Nigeria, by the time this issue might be finally decided, we would have had elections in a year and a half.
Well, sorry to butt in at this point. We have breaking news, and it's news about the Federal Inland Revenue Service. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has affirmed its position on VAT collection by maintaining that the status quo till final determination of the matter stays. FIRS is also urging taxpayers not to panic, stating that until the Court of Appeal or even the Supreme Court determines the matter, taxpayers are required to continue to comply with their value-added tax obligations within the status quo framework. The FIRS disclosed this in a statement by the Special Assistant to the Chairman of the FIRS on Media and Communications, Johannes Wojuola. We'll take a short break and then we'll come back, and we'd like to have your reaction to that piece of information. Is the FIRS in a position to overrule a court of law? We'll take this short break, and then when we return, Tilewa Adebajo will still be here with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Tilewa Adebajo, a financial analyst and chairman of CFG Advisory. Well, Tile, you listened to that statement that I read. Well, not exactly breaking news, but the reaction of the FIRS, I guess, to the ruling by the Court of Justice Palm in Port Harcourt yesterday with regard to the application for an injunction that have been filed by the FIRS. But is the FIRS in a position to overrule a court of law, a court of competent jurisdiction?
Well, I think you and I both know that. You and I both know the answer to that question. We govern by rules, and we have to obey courts, whether we like those decisions or not. But again, you see, this is where the irony comes in Nigeria. The courts have ruled, and the agencies are trying to overpower that. Not only have they done that, but I think the FIRS has written to Lagos State Attorney General directly, informing him to maintain status quo. So what is going to happen, I think, with most businesses in Nigeria is that most people are now going to stop paying VAT. They're going to hold on to that VAT until they understand the direction this is going, because you live in a state and you have to abide by the laws of that state. If you're operating in Lagos State or River State, you have to obey the laws of Lagos State and River State, and you don't want to fall foul of the governor of those states. So if you don't pay your VAT, the state government can shut you down. So if the Federal Inland Revenue Service is now saying this money must come to me, then you are creating some sort of confusion. These are the sort of things that we're looking at in terms of ease of doing business. And I think it's important that I think the federal government intervenes in this matter and we have some dialogue in this matter so as not to cause any businesses any harm. Our economy is recovering on a very fragile basis, and we have made some significant gains in the last quarter. If we begin to not manage this properly, this again could set the economy back. So I think it's important that we need to have reason, not just a Federal Inland Revenue Service coming up with an order with a directive that is contradictory of a court of law. This sends the wrong signal in terms of rule of law and ease of doing business. We need to look at dialogue. And I said there are many elephants in the room because this is very reminiscent of Animal Planet. When in a drought situation, you now find a water hole and everybody's fighting over that piece of water because everybody needs to survive. These are difficult times, and I think we need restraint and we need leadership on this issue. So the Minister of Finance needs to come up and take control of this situation to be able to ease this message to businesses. Because what will happen is that most people will go with their state government because they don't want their businesses to be shut down.
I mean, exciting times. What a time to be alive. But two questions. A lot of analysts are saying it's not as simple as that. There are cases about income and outcome flows. I mean, what's going to be your take on that one? Secondly, with this judgment, that means it nullifies the Finance Act, because one of the parts in the Finance Act was that VAT was going to be increased to 7.5%. And it's been codified. So if this court is saying that the federal government has no chance or no right over VAT, then is it illegal already, that Finance Act where the federal government codified 7.5% VAT?
Well, these are the big elephants we're talking about that are in the rooms. Don't forget that sales tax used to be VAT. Way back during the Babangida era, I think Babangida came up with Decree 7 on the sales tax. And it was the state governments that used to collect the sales tax previously. Then in 1993, they came up with the VAT Act. And I think the FIRS took control of this centralization. Now the Finance Act, as you said, now came up and increased the VAT from 5% to 7%. And all of a sudden, we're now seeing that the VAT collection on this year is on track to top close to 2 trillion naira. So there's a lot of money on the table. And a lot of state governments are saying, like I've said before, the heart of this matter is the fact that there are only 6 states in Nigeria responsible for the collection of 90% of this VAT. So what those states are arguing is the fact that if we are collecting this money, why is it being spent somewhere else in Nigeria? Because we are the ones that are generating it. It's a consumption tax. So basically, why, if somebody is consuming bread in Lagos, why should somebody in another state be benefiting from that sales tax? So this whole issue comes to fiscal federalism. It talks about restructuring of Nigeria. This is the heart of the matter of restructuring of Nigeria. Because even with the federal allocation, the federal government collects 52% of the revenue, the state governments collects 26%, and the local governments collect 20%. Now, some people are arguing and have started to set up local government development areas because they feel that some people are unnecessarily benefiting from this. So, like I said, there are many large elephants in the room. And as you cascade down, this is all part of resource control. And that is why you see that during the Obasanjo regime, the derivation for 13% was agreed with the oil-producing states. So I think it's time that we have significant dialogue, because what you are seeing are symptoms. The real root cause of this is understanding how we're going to look at how we manage the resources of this country. And a lot of people are beginning to agitate that we want to be able to benefit directly 100% from the resources that we're collecting. So what you are seeing are very symptomatic. And you're seeing that there are now all kinds of contradictory laws. The Finance Act has been challenged by court ruling. So we need right now direction. The finance minister needs to step into this right now and give us some clarity, some direction, and we need to have dialogue and reasoning. Because at the end of the day, there's a law in place. The states have passed their VAT bill. If you don't pay your VAT, the state governments will come and shut your businesses down.
Indeed.
And it is legal.
Well, we've run out of time, Mr. Adebajo, but very quickly, are there any other irregularities or anomalies with regards to tax that you'd like to see, rectified at this point while we're at it? Very briefly.
Well, what I would like to see is a complete harmonization of all the taxes in Nigeria, because we don't know the effective tax rates. Federal government will ask you for their taxes, state government will ask you for their taxes, and local governments will ask you for their taxes. Invariably, you could be paying close to 50% taxes. So I think we should use this opportunity to harmonize and the whole tax systems in the country so that businesses can thrive.
Well, thank you very much, Tilewa Adebajo, for joining us this morning and for helping us to clarify many issues with regard to value-added tax in Nigeria. Thank you.